Good Friday morning. This is the Great Basin Smoke Dispersion Briefing for this Friday, February 2nd. Taking a look at precipitation over the past 7 days, you can see most of it confined to the far northern portions of the Great Basin, the mountains of central Idaho and western Wyoming. Very little, if anything, just a few hundredths of an inch. A bit further south, most areas received nothing at all. That precipitation well below normal, anywhere from 0% of normal to basically, even in the wetter areas, barely 50 to 75% in some areas. So another dry week just continues the trend of the season so far. There was new snowfall in our far northern areas, the mountains of central Idaho in the dark blue, 4 to 6 inches, anywhere in the yellow up to 8 inches of snow, and maybe even some locally higher pockets further north, also a few inches in western Wyoming, very little if anything further south. And our snowpack on the right-hand side tells a story. A deep snowpack up in the mountains of central Idaho, somewhere between 30 and 75 inches of snowfall, as well as for western Wyoming. But you can see how the snowpack is almost non-existent across the mountains of Nevada, much below normal across the Sierra front, and also even across the Wasatch, barely 50% of normal, basically just seeing anywhere from 12 to maybe 30 inches of snowfall. Normally it's 2 or 3 times deeper than that, especially in the Wasatch and Uintas this time of year. So looking at satellite imagery, we have high pressure off the California coast, storm track to our north across the Pacific Northwest. Most of the Great Basin will be on the southern edge of the storm track. Any clouds and light precipitation will have a better chance of brushing the mountains of Idaho and western Wyoming again, much lesser chances further to the south. So we look at the upper level map for later this afternoon. And we can see here that, again, the moisture with that storm track with the tighter height lines is to our north, so is the stronger winds. We don't see much in the way of stagnation, no large areas of purple indicating very low ventilation, just moderately low, indicative of high clouds filtering out some of the sunshine and also the time of year, but also good winds going on, especially across the mountains of Idaho, where even though dispersion values might be low, the horizontal transport winds in areas that are exposed to winds, mid and upper slopes, could be quite good. Vertical mixing heights quite poor across northern Nevada and parts of Utah, better across southern and eastern portions of Utah, as well as across parts of western Wyoming and Idaho. Not much change on Saturday. Moisture clips our far northern areas. We are still in this northwest flow, giving us just enough wind to not have us stagnate as high pressure is off to our west. On the ventilation index, you see a lot of white and yellow, very little in the way of purple. So that indicates overall good dispersion in most areas. Best transport winds coming in out of the west across the Snake River Plain. Some gusts over 35, 40 miles per hour may be too much of a good thing. Same across parts of eastern Nevada and across the Sierra front as well. Those west-northwest winds will gust on the lee side of the Wasatch and into the Uintas. Mixing heights fairly good in all areas. And again, similar pattern on Sunday. Storms coming out of the British Columbia, barely clipping the Pacific Northwest, moving more into Montana, maybe clipping far northern portions of the Great Basin, drier to the south. Dispersion overall, that kind of a pattern, not too bad. We don't have high pressure overhead. Mixing, transport winds fairly light across Nevada, but the vertical mixing should be at least a couple of hundred to a couple of thousand feet. Best transport winds again further to the north, closer to that storm track. Precipitation over the next 3 days. This takes us from Friday morning through Monday morning. Best across the mountains of central Idaho, pockets of a half inch to 3/4 of an inch. So that could translate itself to anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow across the highest terrain. Same across parts of western Wyoming. They could get locally higher amounts, 1.5 inches of precipitation expected here, so maybe another 10 to 15 inches above 7,000 feet. Little, if anything, further south. On Monday, again, that northwest flow continues. A bit more moisture pushes into Utah, so there could be some light precipitation through here in the Wasatch and Uintas. Very good dispersion. See white on the ventilation index. Similar story again on Tuesday. Storm track pushes in moisture to the Pacific Northwest and northern Rockies, drier to the south. High pressure remains off California. Good overall dispersion. Very little change on Wednesday, although the high pressure does start nudging a bit further inland to the east into parts of Nevada. Ventilation still remains good. And then another push of Stronger winds coming into the Pacific Northwest. Moisture is limited, though. Should keep our dispersion overall good. No significant precipitation seen during this period. So the whole time between Monday morning and Wednesday morning next week, we could see some precipitation drop a bit further to the south across the Wasatch, maybe a quarter inch or so. So 1 to 3 inches of snowfall across the highest terrain. Snow levels may be kind of high, so it could be above 7,500 feet. Rain showers down below. Similar light precipitation in further north across the mountains of Idaho and Wyoming. Now the 8 to 14 day outlook, this takes us from February 9th through the 15th. It really shows the trend continuing much above normal temperatures, warmer than normal across the entire Great Basin, much drier than normal chances as well. So no significant storminess in sight to add to the snowpack as we go into mid-February. This concludes our briefing. Have a great day.